The confirmation of the president's pick to replace Mike Pompeo as head of the CIA, that is another one that may not go smoothly. Gina Haspel is the nominee. Her confirmation hearing is 2 weeks away. But her reported involvement in the CIA's torture program during the George W. Bush administration is turning into a really serious issue for her nomination. And it's not Democrats who are the only ones raising concerns here. Today, senators received this letter signed by over 100 retired military leaders, senior ones, 109 retired generals and admirals, saying that they, too, are concerned about Gina Haspel's nomination. That is the sort of thing that tends to get senators' attention. Joining us now is one of the retired generals who signed this letter sent to the Senate today, Brigadier General David Irvine. General Irvine, thank you so much for giving us some of your time tonight. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Why did you sign this letter, and what are your concerns?
Well, we have a number of concerns about this nomination, and probably the biggest is that torture, and let's be clear that the CIA has denied for years that it ever tortured anyone. However, the definition of torture is pretty plain and pretty clear. It's the infliction of severe mental or physical pain on an individual, or the threat of imminent death, or the use of any procedure that profoundly disrupts the senses or personality. And it's very clear that the program of enhanced interrogation, so-called, that the CIA developed and implemented around the world at secret black sites, violated federal law and international law because that was torture. And Ms. Haspel played some significant role in the management of that program and in the direct supervision of one of those black sites in Thailand. And we feel very strongly that this is a nomination which, if confirmed, would do incalculable damage to the position of moral leadership the United States needs to exercise around the world.
Do you feel, on that last point that you're making, in terms of the danger to America's moral leadership, is it essentially your argument here, and tell me if I've got this wrong, that regardless of what else we should know about Gina Haspel's career, regardless of her other qualifications, there's essentially symbolic damage done, there's leadership damage done to us as a country just by the elevation of her with this on her record? Essentially, even in that case, even the nomination of her to lead the CIA would have done that kind of harm to this country.
Absolutely. Napoleon was quite a strategist, and he observed that the moral is to the physical as 3 is to 1. And the message that this nomination sends, not only around the world, but to the CIA itself and to the American people, is pretty serious. This resonates in a particular way for military officers because the irony of the Haspel nomination is very, very curious. We expect young men and women, 18 and 19 years, who are infantrymen and women in the armed services, to have the moral capacity to recognize an illegal order and to resist it. And if they make the wrong call and don't resist it, they can be tried and convicted under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So far, there has really been no one at the CIA who has been held to account for its torture policies. And the message that this sends is one which I think was best expressed by John Kirikow, who was a CIA officer who went on the air in 2007 and publicly identified the program for what it was and named an interrogator. And he was charged, he was convicted, and served 2 years in prison for that act. He's the only one that I can recall who has been held to account. Those who implemented and managed the program have been promoted, have been recognized, have been decorated, and we are saying, go ahead. Torture, ignore the law, ignore the morality, ignore the consequences to the country and its national security. And you can even cover up the evidence, and that's okay.
General David Irvine is one of 109 retired generals and admirals who signed this letter today opposing Gina Haspel's nomination to be CIA director. General Irvine, it's an honor to have you on the show tonight, sir. Thank you very much.